before. It kind of
Yeah,
threw me off.
no, we've got guests that I'm not gonna name names, but some of them are just like, yeah, I don't want to talk about this or that. So
All right.
yeah, and also we do not do politics or you can't curse here.
Oh, okay. I'll make a note.
Oh, come on, no, it's fucking with you.
Yeah, I
Damn it.
know because otherwise I wouldn't have invited me. So it's all good.
No, I read your.
We put you on and there's any chance that Pennsylvania falls in the next couple hours, and we've got you on live. I mean, no chance that's not coming
No,
up.
me and Brennan read your tweet, so we were trying to see if you would say something funny. No,
I like
man,
how you hid your giggle behind the microphone.
Yeah, that's why I don't know.
That made me laugh. That's why I started giggling, was because your little face was hiding, and I couldn't help it.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw Gabino. I went like that because I can't be serious most of the time.
Why? Life's too short to be serious. So
right. Yeah, and if any of you do get an update on the election, let's talk about that if all three of you are comfortable, because all of us are for Biden. So anyone who's offended by that listens, that's okay with me.
At this point,
I mean, we flat out said fuck Trump quite a few times on the show. So, all right, now that that's clear, does anyone have any questions before we begin? Okay, cool. All right. Welcome to Dead Headspace. You can find us on Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Ghana, and all other major platforms, which includes Alexa. All you have to do is tell Alexa to play Dead Headspace podcast for the latest episode every Monday and Thursday. I'm your host, Patrick R. McDonough, and alongside me, as always, is Brennan LaFaro. Say hi, Brennan.
Hello, everybody.
And a returning guest host, writer, reviewer, and a most colorful... Fuck that up. I wrote something new that I normally wouldn't say, but I just thought it would make her laugh.
It worked.
Right, take two. And the most colorful star in the galaxy, Cassie Daley. Hi, Cassie.
Hello.
Today we're talking with author, reader, reviewer, and an all-around boing Chico. Please tell me I didn't fuck that up. An all-around,
you nailed it.
all-around good guy who got a straight C in Spanish class, Gabino Iglesias. Hello, sir.
How are you doing, lady and gents?
Pretty good. I'm going to throw this on you, Cassie. Would you like to ask the first question?
Usually you tell me when I'm going to do it first.
I know.
I've got this.
It's a new type of show tonight. We're just winging it.
Yeah, that we're just going with the flow. It's fine. Everybody's anxiety is super high, so we're just going to have fun. So, Gabino, tell us a little bit about what got you into horror.
I was a weird kid. Weren't we all? And I came across a couple of books that I shouldn't have read probably at that age. And I was just hooked for life. It was a combination of encountering literature that made me profoundly uncomfortable in a variety of ways. And then getting the writing bug and writing a horrible story when I was probably in 7th grade, where a neighbor of mine had a illegitimate child that was deformed and mutated, and they hit the kid in the basement, and the kid broke out and slaughtered half of my neighborhood. At the time, I didn't know that when you do that shit, you should probably change the names. So I turned that in at school, and my parents got called. And from that day on, I was like, this is what happens when you tell a story. I want to do this for a living, and I've been trying to do that ever since. Yeah,
I love it. So you've been reading and writing since you were really, really young.
Yeah, I mean, I guess everybody starts with like comic books, and then I found I was out on my bike, and I found a box. Somebody in my neighborhood had died, and the widow had thrown out a box of young adult versions of adventure novels, and by Jules Verne, and I picked that up, and I got hooked immediately. So after that, it was like, all right, I can't afford it, so where can I steal books and get some more of this stuff? yeah.
Who else has to die for me to get some more books?
Who else has to die? That's right. Also, they called you the most colorful star. And when he said colorful, there was like a pregnant pause. And I was like, this is awesome because we're going to talk about her hair. But then we didn't. So I hope at some point we veer the conversation in that direction. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
We have a whole segment dedicated to hair just for all of us to discuss.
Except you,
Especially
Patrick.
Actually, I find that very offensive, and I take it as a personal attack. So, staring to Cassie, let's talk about your hair real quick. Gabino, what questions do you have?
I remember seeing an Instagram photo and thinking her hair had, I have an old crappy phone, and I was like, how is she getting her hair to blend into the background? I was outside, it was very sunny, I couldn't see, and then I walked past a little bit of shadow. There was a little bit of shadow, and I saw the photo, and it was her hair in front of her multicolored Stephen King collection, and it wasn't her hair blending into the background, it was a different thing. And I've been a fan of her hair ever since.
I think it's my hoodie too, because I have a rainbow hoodie, and I stood in front of rainbow.
I think you have a rainbow
hair.
everything.
Yeah, it's my thing. Because it makes me happy to see. So you get like a little mood boost every time you look in the mirror, just like catch a glance of all your books on the shelf. It's nice.
Have any of you guys ever seen a double rainbow? Because I saw that for the first time this summer, and I was mesmerized, like double the luck. Brennan, why don't you jump in, buddy?
Are we done talking about the hair? Because I have stuff to add there. I would certainly just put in, all about that positive boost. I mean, when it's just me and you, Patrick, I mean, we depress our guests. We're awful at this. We bring Cassie on to add that little extra bounce and that smile and that double rainbow. So, I mean, do you guys want to talk about Gabino or just Cassie?
No, we're here for him, not my hair.
I love them
That's
both,
what you think.
So I will talk.
Surprise, Cassie.
Actually, Gabino, I want to go back. You talked about books that make you uncomfortable. Like that was kind of immediately caught your attention. What were some of those early books that, you remember making you uncomfortable, and like how so?
When we think about horror, we think about fear. But I was never fearful of monsters. It was always real life stuff that scared me. But for me, successful horror makes you feel unsettled. It's not necessarily fear. It's kind of like, I don't know what's going on and I don't like it. I don't feel comfortable here. Get me out. And when we get to that point, as horror readers, what we do is I'm uncomfortable. I don't feel good here. Get me out. No, just kidding. Give me more. And probably the first book that made me feel that way, page after page, was Richard Lehman's Endless Night, which is just absolutely brutal in typical Richard Lehman fashion. You have physical abuse, you have murder, you have folks, slathering themselves with like human fat that they took off a corpse. And I was like, I don't know why, but this is so twisted that I don't want to read about it and I can't stop. So that worked for me. I read a whole bunch of those like $4.99 cheap Bentley Little paperbacks, and The Association, The Neighborhood, and I was like, this is how rich people live, in those neighborhoods that that you can't go in there, and that this is why, because they're all freaks like this. And it made me uncomfortable. There's a scene in The Association where somebody has to be sworn in, and I was like, this is what happens in corporate America. They have to drink the Kool-Aid, and they have cults. So yeah, those are a whole bunch of them. Brian Keene's Darkness at the Edge of Town was one of those that I was like, I don't know why, but the sense of like creeping dark closing in, it was a metaphor for a lot of things that I was feeling at the time, and that one touched me too. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is so I don't know what I'm fearing, because there's no monsters, there's nothing absolutely horrible happening, but that impending sense of doom is right there. And then I discovered Lovecraft and Poe, and it was just game over. I was a horror person for life.
What about? I'm gonna throw a curveball. What about crime? Because you write. I don't know what you write more of, horror or crime, and I always view them. Fair to say they're cousins. They go hand to hand often. What was the first? Do you remember the first author that was a crime author? Typically, that you were just like, I gotta try this.
So it was probably inherited. Paco Ignacio Taibo is a Mexican / Spanish writer who writes. He writes about crime in like in city and gives you a tour of the underbelly of the city, and it's the classic smart, cynical, hard drinking, whatever PI. And I found a couple of those novels and got hooked, and then I soon realized that the type of books that I could find for horror, those really thick, cheap paperbacks, were also available for crime. And you could find them even for cheaper. So it was James Patterson, Jeffrey Deaver, Michael Connolly, Patricia Cornwell, all of those standards, and they got me hooked because I understood there was sort of a formula. I didn't find them immediately as creative or as wild as a horror fiction, because I understood there was a formula, but at the same time, there was no supernatural elements usually. So it talked about people. He talked about individuals who were completely sick or were serial murderers, or were turned to a life of crime because of it was a crime of passion or revenge, or because they were broke, and that spoke to me. And then that led to deeper, darker, better crime fiction. And at one point, I stopped sort of seeing the difference for a little while. It was all the same thing. It was about exploring the darkness of humanity.
Just one more question. That's fascinating. I haven't heard of. I'm gonna fuck up his name. The first author you mentioned, but
Paco Ignacio, yeah.
Does he write in English, or is there an English translation?
He doesn't, but everything has been translated. I recently turned in an essay on his work for crime. That should be out at some point this month. But everything he's ever written is available in English.
Perfect. So S.A. Cosby, I was curious if you read Blacktop, Wasteland, and if you did, what you thought about it.
I read it. I loved it. I reviewed that book for NPR. We often hear about, X amount of experiences in crime. We don't hear about enough crime writers as we should. And when you talk about that in conversation, everybody just jumps up. They're like, Walter Mosley. It's like, yeah, there's more folks. Even though Walter is a freaking genius. But I read Blacktop, Wasteland. It was not only sort of like the perfect book for our times. It was not only the perfect book for the BLM movement. It was also, here's hardcore, true to the bone, very humane, black / Appalachian crime. Dig in. And I had read his previous book, which is very good, My Dark Prayer, but this was on another level. I think that's what Flatiron put it out, because it was just another level, and whatever Cosby's bringing up next will be probably even better.
That's amazing, because that is a book that Brennan and I are going to be diving into. I think Cassie actually is too. All three of us are going to be diving into that. We're going to be talking to Sean. He's our last guest of this year, so that's why I had to ask you, man. You're the guy that I would listen to on this one.
Yeah. All right. So if he's listening, fuck you, Sean. You're too good.
Brennan, go ahead, man. Follow up that.
Straight up, too damn talented. No, I pretty much everybody I've seen put out their opinion on that book, expresses it kind of like you did, and just on another level. Not just, hey, this is a really good one, or it's engaging. It's on another level, and I'm really excited to dive into that.
Sweet.
So, I wonder, you know, it sounds like most of your early experiences with reading kind of cycle around genre fiction, kind of as you put it, the ones that you can get the cheap paperbacks of.
Yep.
I want to know what your opinions are on literary fiction, and I'm mostly asking because I feel like your work, especially Coyote Songs, has that kind of polish to it that it could easily be classified as, you know, it certainly fits into crime, it certainly fits into horror elements, but it the way it's written reminded me of something that you'd find classified into literary fiction.
Right. That's one of those conversations that I try not to have when I'm drunk, because I tend to yell a lot. But I'm sober now, strangely enough, because God knows we should be drinking today. But no, I shaved, I took a shower, and I stayed sober for this thing. So let's have that conversation in a mellow voice. The thing is, we have this sort of understanding of, this is genre, and then here's where literary fiction starts. So we can crack jokes about literary fiction being about some straight white guy wasting daddy's money as he looks for his place in the world, while gentrifying Brooklyn, and it's 350 pages of a book where nothing happens, but he walks around, he has a couple of cigarettes, and he talks about women and stuff, and quotes Bukowski or something. I don't know.
That's so
when you talk about the pre-writing, that thing that we associate with literary fiction, like the poetry and the cadence and the rhythm and the beauty. So who are your favorite literary fiction writers? Brian Evanson, Stephen Graham Jones, Jeremy Robert Johnson, this magnificent set of writers that come at genre fiction saying, whatever literary fiction can do, we can do better. And we can do better while telling you a superb story. And we are the children of pulp fiction, of zombie novels and superhero comics. And it's a thing where I don't like the word craft, but that's the one that everybody throws around. Writing is a craft. You try to get as good as you can at it. And in that process, you just write better. And then it gets to a point where people say, like, oh, this is literary fiction. And then you go, like, it's a fucking ghost story. There's a woman with a couple of machetes hacking people to pieces. What are you talking about? That's as pulp and as genre and horror as it gets. So yeah, see, I didn't have to yell or scream. Literary fiction, it's just this thing that I think we're using nowadays more for marketing purposes, because you're going to read Blacktop Wasteland. There are some stunning lines in that novel. If you read The Only Good Indians, you read some paragraphs and you go like, I'm just going to take a break, grab a glass of water. I'm going to read that page again. It's heartfelt. It's poetic. It's beautifully constructed. It's literary fiction, except there's like some supernatural element, or there's a gun and some, a kilo of blow in the middle of that, which makes it genre. But yeah, let's keep having that conversation sober.
I think that we should get you back eventually, and all of us should be drinking.
We could do a celebration podcast
for your next book.
Yeah, let's do it.
Your people call my people, and it just so happens I am my people. So call me.
I'll send you a message on Twitter. That's what that boils down to.
Nice.
I like that whole thing about how it's for marketing purposes, because and I could be wrong. You might have examples, but I'm just thinking all of a sudden, like, is there an independent literary fiction community like there's an indie horror community? And the answer to me seems like no. Anybody have different thoughts on that?
I mean, I'm not an expert here because I didn't even know the indie horror community existed until like 3 years ago. So I'm like a little newborn baby, and I'm just happy to have found it.
I would argue, if you look at solid example would be $2 Radio. If you look at the stuff that $2 Radio is putting out, or if you look at half of the stuff that the now defunct lazy fascist press was putting out, like Scott McClanahan, and if you look at that type of stuff, you could say there's a small literary fiction community that goes the indie way. But at the same time, when you talk about $2 radio, you're talking about major distribution, superb names. So I don't know if what we're talking about when we say indie, some of the indies in horror we're talking about people that set 200 books a year and have no money for marketing, no arcs, no launch. And the books for $2 radio are books that I get like 3-4 months in advance because they have that kind of coin. So indie, yes, at the same level that we see, horror fiction and crime fiction, really, really small. Broken River Books is like a one-man show. So that when I think about indie, I think about Broken River. It's like we get Matt out in Australia to do our covers, but then JDO is doing editing, he's doing layout, he's putting the book out. It's like a one-man show, and I don't think literary fiction has that. Might be wrong.
Well, you know more presses that would almost fit into that than I did. The presses you named, I'm not familiar with those, so that's my ignorance and me willing to make a statement that I have absolutely no way to back up. So,
Dead Headspace has association with Brennan.
I'll be completely honest about that. This is how I feel. This is my opinion, and I have nothing to back it up. So,
which speaks to just how small those communities are, that they don't. They don't reach out. The only reason I think I came across Lazy Fascist when it was a thing is because it grew under Eraserhead Press, which is like everybody knows Eraserhead. Yeah. So one arm of Eraserhead was Deadite Press. They're still active. Deadite exists to this day. And then Cameron Pierce started Lazy Fascist Press, and they put out Brian Allen Carr. They put out Scott McClanahan. They put out a whole bunch of amazing books, and then vanished. So
that sucks.
Yeah.
So Cassie, do you have anything that you want to throw in there, or if not, I'm going to jump into Zero Saints because I kind of want to.
So I have a genre question actually. So since you have written mostly horror and mostly crime, is it ever going to be in your future that you branch into things that are like way different from that, like maybe like sci-fi or fantasy or things like more into those elements? Or do you think it'll be still more focused on darker stuff, or even those things with darker stuff?
I've always been curious about sci-fi. A lot of people would consider at least half of my first published book, Gutmouth, they would consider that sci-fi. It's in the future. People are heavily modified. There's DNA tweaking, all that type of sci-fi stuff. One of the future novels, I don't know, the next 3 or 4 novels, is kind of a noir sci-fi. So yeah, I would like that. Also, I need to write a fucking romance. Hopefully with like shiny vampires in it.
Like blood and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Those other genres have always appealed to me. Kind of like sci-fi. But I don't see myself writing fantasy or romance anytime soon. There's just so much that you can do with horror and crime, and you throw in a little bit of magic realism, and then I'm set for a couple more books. I've still got places to go.
That's fair. Yeah, I was gonna say there is actually a lot of like magical stuff in Coyote Songs too. So you kind of went into the fantastical element a little bit there.
It's literary fiction.
So for Zero Saints, that was my first book that I've ever read by you. What I really liked, and I think it falls more on me just not being aware. So again, ignorance. I am no longer associated with my own podcast, by the way, due to this statement. No, I'm kidding. I've never read a English-based book where it's also weaving in a foreign, and by foreign I just mean non-American or non-English book, where they weave in the language and it's not in italics, or it's not like pointed out that it is a foreign language. It's just, it is what it is. And I mean, different areas where I grew up in Massachusetts, there's this one big city named Brockton, there are, I don't even know how many different languages, so many from Spanish cultures to other regions, and I just, it's kind of neat going through different supermarkets because you just hear different languages. I don't know what the hell they're saying, but I can pick up what the context is, and based on my few years in school learning Spanish and me not doing super well in it, I still was able to follow along.
Right.
And I really loved that. I loved it. It made me want to learn Spanish again. So, I didn't really have a question with that.
I think it boils down to your going to the market comment. Like that's what it's like walking around New York City or walking around LA. It's just you hear it in the streets. It doesn't really matter if you understand or not. It's just you can walk around New York City for a couple hours and hear 4, 5, 6 languages.
Right.
And when it came to Zero Saints, I'd already written a mess of a novel that was like 130,000 pages. Obviously, that's not going to see the light of day anytime soon. But I found myself as a non-native speaker thinking of lines that sounded somehow decent in my head. And then I translated them. They sounded like fucking garbage. And when I got to Zero Saints, I was like, you know what? If it sounds good in my head, if it just comes out naturally in Spanish, that's how it's going to stay. And then, when I talked to JDO about, he was interested in putting the book out, I said, we're in Texas, so we have to say italics. I don't want italics. We're not doing italics. We're not going to otherize Spanish because the book is written, with people that speak Spanglish. So we're going to keep it all the same. And he said, yeah, love that idea. Let's roll with it. That said, you're one of the few people that actually kind of enjoyed it. So, the feedback on that has always been divided. And there's a collection of 1-star reviews on Amazon. Nobody gives a shit about the Russian or the little bit of Yoruba that's in there. It's always the Spanish that makes people angry.
I think you're from Puerto Rico originally, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I wasn't entirely sure, so I was kind of making an assumption. So you're that's your native language. So why the So that's a little bit of a dickish comment for people to be like, why are you writing your own language? Like, fuck off, don't read it then. That's so weird.
I'm sorry, dude, but you know what country we're in?
Right. Speak American, man.
You know what? Brennan just made a good point. Yeah, we're in a country where a guy that's literally like Hitler is very close to winning the presidency for 4 more years. So yeah, good point, Brennan.
Yeah. And I taught English to English language learners, undocumented workers for 2 years, and most of them had better grammar than the president of the United States. So it's a sad story, but yeah.
And this is a little bit going off topic, and this will be old news by next week when this comes out. But I just read before we started recording that he's already going on a game plan of what the second term's going to be like and is announcing it to try to trick everyone.
Yeah.
It's like the Onion.
He won, according to him, he won Nevada, Arizona, Ohio, Kentucky, Narnia. He's won like 78 states so far. he's got it.
Brennan, real quick before we get back on track, why don't you tell us a text message that you sent about the Narnia thing? It was
my wife's gonna absolutely love me including a story about how she took an edible before bed on election night. But she hit the hay early, and I sent her updates about how they called Mordor for Trump and Narnia for Biden, and she didn't really know what to make of it. But personally, my favorite, going back to what you guys were talking about, rather than Trump claiming this state or that and the other thing, I kind of liked Anderson Cooper's claim that Trump was floundering like a turtle rolling around on its back. If you guys haven't seen that one yet, that's a winner.
An obese turtle, he said.
An obese turtle in the sun, yes.
In the sun.
Cassie, you want to jump in?
I was just going to say that I guess back 2 subjects ago before the Trump stuff, I also really liked that there was Spanish in it because growing up, like my family on my dad's side spoke Spanish and my mom's side was very not about that. And she got really mad at him for teaching me. So, but I can still read it. And that's like the easiest way for me to get it because I can't really listen super well and understand. So when I was reading it, it took me like some of the sentences I would read without even realizing that the languages had switched. And I was like, oh, I just know what this means automatically. Yeah. And I really liked it. And it was like, I don't know. I know this sounds stupid, but it felt like a little like a level up. I was like, oh, there's a thing that some people can't do this. And I'm doing this here. So it's like, I was like, oh, this is like an extra layered book. I love it.
You know what?
There was no question. That was it.
It's a good thing I'm not drinking now because I'd get really pissed. I can't move past certain points, and one of them is the whole comment about people getting stuck on you writing in your own language. That makes me think of people that refuse to watch foreign films because they got to fucking read or they want it dubbed in. Like it. Yeah. There's no question there. It's just it irks the shit out of me.
Just a rant.
Yeah, just like.
But keep going. I love it.
Well, there is one part, like I really enjoyed Zero Saints, but there's one part that really just God's honest truth. It made my heart break when you wrote about La Frontera, the border. Yeah, I knew all about all the bad shit that happens, but like, do I really? I'm a white dude from the East Coast that's never been that far west, and my ancestors came over in the early 1920s from Ireland and Italy, presumably legally. Yeah, presumably legally, but who the fuck knows? I don't know. So my whole point is I got no clue. I'm a middle class, very privileged kid. When you wrote that, I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. Well, it makes sense. It really irks me when I hear a fellow American just start talking about immigrants and how they should stay in their own country. Like, what are you talking about? Like my wife, when Americans were allowed to a few years ago through a cruise, we were allowed to go to Havana, Cuba. That was an eye opener. It was almost too much. Like my anxiety was in overdrive. There were beautiful buildings that were just not taken care of due to government owns everything. There's still Fidel Castro stuff everywhere. It was strange. So when you wrote the La Frontera stuff, you emphasized the point over and over again. Brennan and I talked about this a lot. You don't waste words. Whether it's you, your editors, a team effort, whatever the case is, you still wrote them. And I had such an impression by that I actually, this is so weird, but I'm working on a YA fantasy, and that La Frontera, it has nothing to do with the border or anything. It's not even Earth-based, but I wrote something similar, like the same emphasis on one thing that actually gave it something I didn't think had a meaning. So I got to thank you for that, because it's a weird way to connect the dots, but I got to thank you for both reasons, making me realize how bad it is.
Don't thank me, just send me an arc.
If I get published one day, sure.
When you get published.
Well, that's the spirit.
Yeah, Gabino Iglesias reviewing my book would be amazing. Do either one of you want to jump in? If not, I got it from here for the rest of the show.
I would add one.
We're not even needed. Me and Brennan can just go. It's just Pat and Gabino right now. Like, that's it.
Okay. Yeah. No, I see how it is. I had one more comment on the use of language in that book, and kind of a follow-up question. Now, I thought that, the addition of Spanish added an air of authenticity, because I am very, very far from that area of the country. But from what I understand, like, it's extremely common for people to just rotate back and forth between languages, exactly like you wrote in the book. Is that just kind of the way people speak to each other in that area?
So there's like two realities that folks who are not living that reality just ignore. The first one is for people who have a very strong native language. like me, 20 years of my life, I had no need to speak English on any regular basis. You do code switching. You might think about certain things. It's impossible for me to think about home, my mom, home cooked meals, my childhood, camping at the beach throughout all my teens. I can't think about those memories in English because that's not how they happened. So when we go back and we talk about those things, we tend to code switch, and then we do return to our native language for a certain amount of things, or just because sometimes, depending on your English skills, you might be in the middle of a conversation and you just forget a word. It's like, I'm not gonna stop talking just because I forgot a word. I'll just throw it in Spanish, which obviously I remember, and keep going. But what's even more interesting is that places like California and Texas that have always been in between places, to some extent Florida as well, you have newer generations who are already U.S. born, for whom there's no code switching because they have one gigantic language where I know this is a book, but it's also a libro because that's what my grandma calls it. So I have this one enormous language where things have 2, 3, 4, 5 names, and I make no distinctions. And from time to time, I'll throw one in, and then I know that maybe I'll need to keep those out when I'm talking to, my white friends from like Nebraska. We're not gonna get it. So they don't even code switch. They have all of it. It's this gigantic thing on their head. But for us, it's a reality. I've never met an old non-native speaker female in the United States who prays in English. They don't go, "Our Father who art in heaven." No, you learn to pray as a little girl in Spanish. That's how you're gonna do it till you die. So that was part of it.
Yeah, the prayers. I mean, like I read those all, and I could pick out because I remember when I was learning Spanish as a kid in school, and I was like, I can't believe I'm remembering some of the shit.
Yeah,
it was cool. Now, this may be too.
If you see a Latino yelling "Oh God," and it's a non-native speaker, and they learned to pray in Spanish, and you hear them say "Oh God," you're probably watching porn. So yeah. Sorry.
Now, if feel free to tell me to pass on this, but Santa Muerta, am I saying that wrong? Muerta. Yeah, my wife, when I was reading this out loud, you saw the picture. Yeah, Gabino, I don't know if you two saw it, but my son looked at the cover of it. I'm jumping to Coyote songs now, but I was reading both, and when I read the Spanish part, my son was just like smiling at the cover, but my wife's like, "Your Spanish is awful." I'm like, "I know." So I apologize, but for Santa filling the words, is that something that you personally pray to? Is that just in the forgive my possible wrong choice of words, but in the mythology of the Spanish religion or Catholicism, right?
So I was lucky enough to be born and raised in the Caribbean. So I grew up in the heart of syncretism in the world. Like it was voodoo, Santeria, Mesa Blanca, Palo Mayombe, Santa Muerte. It was just all of it. And then when I moved here, I realized that I sort of got in touch with communities that had brought a lot of Santa Muerte into Texas. Now I live in Austin, which is not. It's not the border. So I knew I was getting this slightly lesser version of whatever goes down in places like El Paso. But it was still strong enough to have botanicas and to have people with Santa Muerte tattoos. And I can go to my local fiesta, which is like in here they call it the ethnic grocery store, and I can buy Santa Muerte candles. Right. So it's still strong enough. And that appealed to me a lot my first couple of years here. So I think growing up in the heart of syncretism, you develop the ability to just sort of get along with everyone. You're Jewish, fine with me. You're Catholic, all right, we can hang. As long as you focus on whichever part of your religion focuses on love instead of hating the other, I'll fuck with you. And for a couple of years there before writing Zero Saints, I was really into Santa Muerte and studying its impact here in the U.S. and talking to people who were practicing on the daily, and it just worked itself into Zero Saints. And then I think a little bit, not I'm not forcing you out of Zero Saints, but you mentioned Coyote Songs. It kind of have the same thing happen in Coyote Songs with the Virgin. It's like suddenly I tapped into these communities that were all about the Virgin and going to the grotto and lighting the candles, and I'm gonna get the gigantic Virgin tattooed on my chest. And I think Santa Muerte doesn't even appear on that book because it was an entirely different vibe.
Yeah, cool. I don't know how to follow that up. That's just interesting.
Oh, and thank you for the photo of your kid laughing at the cover, because that made my day.
Oh yeah, my wife probably got sick of hearing about you because I was like, this guy's really pretty fucking cool and blah blah blah, and she's like,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man,
I appreciate your dishonesty.
No, you do have a solid readership. George, I don't know his last name, but he's a hardcore reader. Big Paul Tremblay fan. That guy, I think he loves you more than all three of us combined, though.
It makes no sense to me. Somebody who reads Paul might dig my stuff. I'm always surprised.
Mr.
Paul's
Modest.
a fucking, yeah. It's Paul.
As somebody who's read both of your books, I can tell you that both of you are like very, very good, like such good writers, and the books are amazing, both of you. So you shouldn't be discounting yourself or discrediting yourself at all, because I definitely hold you like way up there with some of the best writers I've ever read. There's no question. That's just another rant.
Now I have to live up to that. Thank you, Cassie. No pressure.
No pressure. Just rainbows.
Something that I do love about you, though, in all honesty, and you can't discredit this yourself, is your hustle. You talk about it often. That can branch into so many different ways. So I'm just going to baseline it. Where's your drive come from?
There's no point in not doing things. That's why the fuck are you here wasting oxygen, man? Just do it. Nobody's gonna do it for you. Nobody cares. I wrote a book. Great. Are you gonna hustle and try to sell it? No. Well, congrats. Your mom's gonna read it. In my case, I don't even have that option because she doesn't read English. So I didn't even have those sales secured. I had to go from book one. It was entirely on my shoulders. You find that one thing that you want to do, and then you go at it. It's a lot of people say they don't understand. I used to tell I gave a workshop for the Lighthouse writers in Denver, and I talked to them about this very short video about a man named Eddie Hall, who's one of the best power lifters of all time, and he was the first human to deadlift 1,000 pounds. And I saw a video about the aftermath. He had brain bleeding. He collapsed after the lift. He was having seizures. The next day, his brain didn't work right. And then at the end of that whole, short documentary, they're like, "Well, Eddie, would you do it again?" And he goes like, "Would I do it? I almost died. My brain had bleeding. There was bleeding on my brain. I had seizures. I didn't remember my brother's names for like 48 hours. Of fucking course I would do it again. And I would add 20 more pounds." So that's the drive we should have in anything in life that you really want to do. You just mentioned reading with your kid, man. Like, you can't half-ass being a parent. This is it. You did this thing. Now you're in it for life until you die. And you're going to do it to the best of your ability, and it will come before your other interests. It's always the kid first, whether it's money, food, happiness, security, whatever it is. If you apply that to everything that you truly love, then there's no reason to not feel that hustle. As soon as you wake up in the morning, what the hell am I going to do today to make this thing happen? And the beauty about writing is that you have this thing called making it, and then it always jumps. Like, what am I going to do? I need to get that first short story out, done. Well, now I need to move on to the second. Now I need a novel. Now I need the next novel. Now I want more writers. There's no stopping. Like, there's a reason why Stephen King still putting out books. He still has something to prove, you know. He's still out there doing the thing, and he's not struggling to pay rent. So if he's still hustling, you probably should too.
Before Brennan and Cassie jump in, those are great points. I do notice a trend with a lot of authors that I talk to. They find a weird pitfall. That's how I'm using that word, for lack of a better word, with promoting their own work, whether it's that they are just very much so shy, or that they seem to find it to be like a way of kind of coming off the wrong way. But you have, and I'm not insulting you at all, because I'm going to be the same damn way. You have no issues with that. Like just today, you were just like, there's a sale on Coyote Songs and Zero Saints. What advice would you, besides what you just said, which I think is the answer, but do you have any additional advice to those newer or maybe seasoned authors that are just shy about it?
Yeah, I teach a workshop titled "Book Marketing with No Budget," and we start with a series of truths. And the first devastating truth in that workshop is, you wrote a book. You put your time, effort, your talents. You put your time. You took time away from doing things that you enjoy in life to work on that book. And now it's out. And guess what? Nobody gives a fuck. Nobody Nobody gives a rat's ass about another book. Jesus Christ. We got Hulu and Prime and Netflix and politics and sports and significant others and a stack of bills that looks like a stack of pancakes. Fuck your book, man. Ain't nobody got time for that. So it's your job, after you write it and the thing is out, it's your job to say, hey, this is an escape from reality. This is a good thing. I had something to say. It's good enough to get published. You should totally read it. When you wake up in the morning, you have to set, some kind of standard for yourself. And so like today, I will try to get one new reader. I got 24 hours to do it. Let me try to get one new reader. Maybe they hate it. Fine. They tried it out. You should be thankful. But maybe I have a reader that's going to check out my next book. And that's how you build a readership. If you write your book and you sit at home, you wait for people to discover it, which is one of those things that I keep hearing about. Like, the book will find its audience. Fuck you. The book ain't got no legs. The book's not going to do anything by itself. It's like, I have an Etsy store. I haven't told anyone. I'm sure people will find it. No, they won't. There's a billion Etsy stores. You need to tell people about it so they can find it and go there and invest their money. So this whole thing is like, yes, be humble. Yes, be honest about what you're offering people. I've never hidden the fact that there's a ton of Spanish in there, that it's incredibly political and incredibly violent. But if that's your thing, come on, I got pages for you. Come spend some time with me. And that's how you do it. It's not. I don't see any other way. I don't think any other way fits unless you have a marketing department behind you doing all of that work for you and spending thousands and thousands of dollars getting you putting your book cover on the side of the bus and getting you ads on TV and taking out newspaper ads. Unless that's happening, it's all on you. So go out and do it.
I got one final story to kind of piggyback off that. 2014 was when I made my only self-published novella. It's no longer available because I pulled that piece of shit, but I was just so thrilled. I remember, I don't know why this specific scene, but me and my wife were in the liquor store after I hit publish, and it was on Amazon. And I'm like, these motherfuckers don't know who they're around. They're around a published author. I can't talk. And no one read it. One review. So, yes, I agree. It's just like, there's so many choices. Books in general, the most successful ones, they're competing with everything you just said. Hulu, Prime, Amazon, fucking Disney. Disney's everywhere. How's Disney legal? All right, one of you two take over. I'm talking enough.
I mean, I think it's really important what you're saying too about how you just have to keep doing it, because like you mentioned, Etsy, like if I don't constantly post stuff like all the time, I will not make any sales ever. Like I just can't do it. Like nobody's going and searching like horror rainbows on the road. Like that's not a thing that happens. And I mean, I'll get a trickle from like Etsy's advertising and stuff. But it's so rare and it helps so much more when I do stuff. And I think that's another thing that some authors who are self-publishing or who are just not super familiar with getting the word for their books out there are afraid of. Like they're afraid of annoying people. They're afraid of coming off as like, oh, I think I'm so good because I'm sharing my book a bunch of times. But it's like, no, like we need you to do that. Like statistically, people will not even see your advertising the first time around. Like there's like that whole thing in advertising. That's like the law of sevens where you have to post things 7 times to get maximum visibility for it. And that's just for one thing. And that's like for a day. Like it's bananas. So I applaud you for your persistence. And I think more people should do that because what's so good too is you don't just do it for yourself because you post those things and you're like, hey, tell me about your books that you're writing. Tell me about the things you've published, like spread the word. And that's such like an amazing thing. Like you contribute in like, instead of just taking, which again, no question, we love you. You're great.
It's not you back, Cassie.
I told you guys I was excited for this, and I was like, I love his books. I tell people to read Coyote songs all the time.
I think we come into this. Every writer that I've ever met was a reader first, and I cannot imagine the size of your ego if you're reading your own shit. So like, I need other books, right? I need. I'm always reading. I'm always reviewing. I'm always buying. I'm always retweeting. I'm not gonna read my own books, so I need a whole bunch of books. I need at least 200 books every year. Gimme. So I need you to write them. I'm not gonna go read my own. You write it. And I'll support it because I want you to make a living at this thing and I want you to go out and write some more. So whenever a book by one of my favorite authors comes out, I'm immediately asking, where can I get a review copy? I'm going to pitch it to all my venues. Let's do an interview. Let's keep you well fed and in the public eye so you can actually make a living at the thing that you love because I love reading your book. And here's the thing. I love them so much. I'm going to get it. And I'm going to devour it in like 2-3 days. And now I need a new one. So I'm going to turn to another writer. And if we don't support other writers, then we're going to end up just reading the newspaper, which are almost not a thing anymore. So, yeah.
I like how you managed to take, your encouragement of other writers and you building up people within the community. And you tried real hard to put a selfish spin on it. You're like, I'm only building people up because I want more.
It's for me.
All for me.
It's all about me. So, yeah.
It's the best kind of selfishness, honestly.
Well, this is your episode.
I think Cassie should jump in and give folks a little info on the Etsy store right now.
Well, there are rainbows. You guys know what's in there. Actually, I have a question for you, Gabino. How does it feel to be in a coloring book?
Oh, my God. It's so awesome. I'm a werewolf.
You are, indeed.
And I'm a good-looking werewolf. Like the werewolf side's more. It looks better than my human side, so I was glad to see that. It's also a little less hairy, which was surprising. But I'm in there with a whole bunch of amazing writers who I'm also lucky enough to call friends. And everybody should get a copy of that. I don't know. Do you have copies of that left?
I do. So what I switched to doing actually is because I was getting so many messages from people who would miss it and it would sell out. And I feel so bad telling them no. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually placing an order every Friday for books that were ordered that week. And then they usually take like 2 weeks to get to me. And then I just ship them out. So they're like in
so
stock.
People should get on it now if they want it in time for Christmas.
Thank you. I didn't intend for this to be such a episode about my hair and my art, you guys. I'm sorry.
The hair is not for sale, but the book is.
No. I'd like to keep it. Oh God, can you imagine like little listings in my Etsy, like special edition, a bit of Cassie's hair? I've seen weird stuff online.
I read earlier this year about this woman who was selling bottles of her bathwater.
Yes. I followed
making bank.
She made so much money.
If you can cut off some hair and get some freak out there to give you $500 a piece for some of your hair, more power to you.
Sure.
Go do it.
Yeah, that's entrepreneurship I can get behind.
Yes.
Okay, you guys ask an actual question now.
Yes, is Gabino going to be in the sequel to the coloring book?
Well, I don't even have the sequel planned yet because I'm doing the Final Girls one, so they're going to be like horror movie girls from obviously from movies.
Nice.
There's a list of 20 of them, so that one's coming out in the spring.
Nice.
Who's the first?
Well, I mean, I don't know what order they're in, but I have a bunch of them. Like I have oh god, now that you asked me,
do you have the grandmother of Final Girls?
Oh, what?
Ripley Scott, man. I mean, not
I
Ripley.
do. No, not Ripley Scott. No, definitely not.
I said Ripley Scott. I gotta shut the fuck up. Brennan asks questions. That's not a lady.
Out. Oh my
god. Jamie Lee Curtis has to be in there, right?
Yes, she is in there. Okay, so I pulled up the list just for you guys. So Sally Hardesty from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. I have Danny from Midsummer. So I have some older stuff and some more recent stuff.
Nice.
Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street. Ellen Ripley is what I think you meant to say.
I 100% meant that, and I said Ripley Scott.
I have.
I'm sober, by the way. This is bad.
I was going to ask. I was going to be like, are you okay?
Yeah.
I have it's a mix of girls, and I'm excited about it because I think it'll be fun, and it'll be a lot of blood, I guess. Hopefully their red coloring pencils are sharpened. I don't know how to segue.
So, well, I actually did want to go back to the reviewing thing. Now, I know there's a shitload of examples of like super famous authors that also reviewed or critics, whatever. I don't know. Those are interchangeable words to me sometimes. But I know there's a difference, but I don't know. Whatever. For example, Edgar Allan Poe, and the other one was Mark Twain. You obviously amongst many others within the horror community. So my question for you, because I'm a reviewer, but like you're getting paid to do it for big platforms. How do you approach reviewing a friend's book? And it could be the same exact way I do it, but how do you approach reviewing a friend's book or someone you really like or whatever, but maybe you don't love the book? How do you do that? Or if you do love the book, how do you go about sounding like you're not kind of being biased?
There's this, I guess you just switch hats. First of all, there's this understanding. This is I used to be a high school teacher for the past 2 years. I lost my job on June 1st. So most of my bills right now I'm paying with reviews, the hustle, the freelancing. I'm not going to put my career in jeopardy talking about a book that sucks as if it's brilliant because I know you. That's not gonna happen. I might send you an email first and say, dude, you dropped the ball so hard. Let me take a look at the next one before you put it out, or change editors, because this one fucking sucked. But I'm not gonna do that. So usually what I try to do is, for really big venues like NPR, for example, I can't review Paul Tremblay for NPR. I would love to, all right, but I have a relationship with my editor. We're brutally honest. She knows who has blurbed my books, and it's a conflict of interest. So 100% of the stuff that I review for NPR it comes from people that I don't know. I've never talked to you. We're not connected on social media.
Fuck.
You're just a stranger. For the rest of all my venues, for example, San Francisco Chronicle, it's more or less assigned books. So I don't know those people. And the people that I do know, it's usually, I know you produce quality work. Any good book reviewer will probably find something amazing about your book and something that could have been better. If I can mention both of those things, you're going to be happy because you have the pull quote that you wanted. And people who respect me for what I do and respect my word as a reviewer of, more than a decade, they know that I pointed out something to you. I said, this character was one-dimensional, or your dialogue was a little long-winded, or you had like 3 info dumps in there. I will critique you on the weaknesses of the book. If you can find those things, then you don't have to worry about anything. Writers are just glad to get reviewed anywhere. So you can drop a couple of lines about how one element was not that strong, and they'll just read the lines that they like a couple more times, and it'll ease the pain. You're good to go. You get to keep doing what you do.
Brennan, you look like you're.
He looks startled.
Yeah.
You're in the headlights. All right. Sorry, man.
No, it's okay. You know what it is, man? It's this Thursday night thing is throwing me off. And this is gonna sound absolutely terrible, but I usually have a drink when we're recording one of these, but I gotta get up at like 5 a.m. tomorrow, so I'm not sure how to do one of these completely sober.
Drink lots of coffee like I do.
Right now, I'll never go to sleep.
Okay, so moving. Now, if someone wanted to join one of your workshops, where I know where it is, but where and when could they do that?
There's a link in Cassie's Etsy store.
Get out.
No, there's not. Look me up on Twitter. Whenever we're about to start, I'll put the info there. If not, my last name, Iglesias, Iglesias, Iglesias Workshops at Gmail, and then I'll send you all the info on whatever will be happening in an upcoming week. This week we're not doing one because I was teaching workshops through other people for 2 weeks. Those require weird arrangements for me during the week because I taught one for the Writers League of Texas and how to write violence, and that was 6 hours. So I had to prep a class on top of a class on top of a class to be able to talk about writing violence for 6 hours total. But whenever that's happening, just I'll announce it, and we get together, we party. You bring your own beer. Drinks are strongly encouraged, and yeah, we just have fun. I like talking to people about writing.
Yeah, Sorry, Cassie, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I've actually taken one of his workshops, and it's really good. It's like I had like 3 pages of notes afterwards, and it wasn't even like it wasn't a 6-hour class or anything like that. Like it was like tolerable for somebody who has a short attention span like me, but also wants to learn stuff. So I really liked it. He's a good teacher.
Thank you.
Yeah, my friend Rich Gerlach said that he enjoyed it too. He told me a little bit about it. Yeah, so I've heard nothing but good things.
I'll jump in.
That's what I was waiting for.
How do you generally decide on a topic? Do you just kind of like poll everybody, see what everybody wants to do, or do you see what kind of you're working on and what you think you could really bring to the table?
Yeah, no, I don't care about what people want. That's not my concern. That's their concern. I started back in June because between June and November of last year, I was lucky enough to give about 5 or 6 keynotes on diversity, otherness, diversity in publishing, and I spoke in Houston, and I went to Marquette, and they flew me out. Becky Spratford flew me out to Chicago to talk to like 400 librarians, and it was awesome. And then I was in a writer's room in New York City, probably between the end of November, beginning of December, and it was like 2 a.m. and I was having a moment on a dark New York City street. And I was like, I'm going to travel so much in 2020. And then 2020 said, fuck you, you're not going anywhere. And in June, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I have to take all of this stuff that I really wanted to talk about, turn it into a workshop, and convince people to come hang out with me on Zoom and have these conversations. So that first workshop, which is otherness in fiction, getting it right, was born out of all the material that I had prepped for keynotes and for essays and for academic writing. Then I really wanted to talk about things like violence and writing horror fiction, because I read so much horror, and sometimes it is done in ways that I think could improve. So that became the second workshop. Then a lot of people said, like, when the hell are you going to teach others how to write book reviews? And then that became the third workshop, and then it just grew from there. So yes, I was joking. From time to time, somebody will say, like, hey, I enjoyed this particular element of your work. Can you put a workshop together on how to do that? One of the things that I say in every single workshop at the beginning of it is I will not teach you how to master anything, because you cannot master writing. You just try to get a little better every time you do it. So yeah, I listen to people. I look at my own work, the few elements of it that I feel comfortable with, or that I've sucked at it long enough that I've done a lot of work into researching how it's supposed to be done. I'll just throw enough to fill 2 hours, and give you assignments, and then we get together and hang out.
That sounds pretty awesome, actually.
Not a bad gig.
No, I definitely have talked to you about that, but I want to join one of those in the future. So I actually want. What's that?
Anytime.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Sorry for cutting you off. I've read quite a few of your articles, but my favorite one, and I didn't read it when it was originally posted. You retweeted or something. It's on was it Clash? Yes, Clash.com. 10 types of authors who can go fuck themselves. So I'll just say my favorite one, the title of it. Which would be number... I thought I had it.
He came prepared.
It's number 8. Authors who don't support other authors. That's a really big, important one. And you don't hold back. Super blue language. Like, if you think every other author out there is your enemy, you can go fuck yourself. That is riddled throughout this article, and I love it. And it's because of articles like that, before you and I really started talking, I was just like kind of nervous. I'm like, oh God, he's going to tell me to go fuck myself a lot. Which I'm very much so accustomed to, so that would have been okay.
No, it's just we're so touchy with what we do. Writers are just a weird bunch. We all are. We're a little emotional. What we do is kind of strange. We lock ourselves in tiny dark rooms and think about horrible stuff and dig deep into our soul to dig out our traumas and put them on the page. But from time to time, you will run into people like that. It's like, hey, every other author, I need to sell more copies, and I need to be louder than them. I need to do this. Listen, are you not reading books? Because what I want is for everybody to make Stephen King money, and then we can all be happy and get together and eat tacos and donuts and drink good whiskey, and that'd be awesome. That's the dream.
Yes, the Holy Trinity.
But from time to time, I'm not known for holding back. That's not a thing that I'm able to do. So some people just don't have that filter. I'm sorry. We're just wired differently, and I'll wake up and I'll feel the need to say something like that. And for that particular one, which is no longer available, I think, in that format, because Clash died. But it went viral. It received a gazillion hits in the first 3 days. I was getting angry emails. People were doing YouTube videos in response to it, like, writers who write this Taibo list can go fuck themselves. And I was like, you're so angry, and I find it so funny. And at the end of those, each one of those ends with the same kind of invitation, like, if you feel the need to reply to this because one of these really insulted you, you should probably go write something instead of just being angry. I don't care about your anger. I got other things to worry about. But those are funny. I have a lot of fun pissing people off from time to time.
So I remember that going up too, and or at least I remember you retweeting it and saying something about how you got a lot of grief from it. But, that's all coming from people who were on the list. If you're mad about it, guess what? It's because you're in there.
And that's the nature of Twitter. Like if I log in and I say, fuck racists, and you take it personally, you have two problems now. Like first one, you're racist, and second, you just told everybody. Like, it's not with you. Like, we should chop off the hands of every sexual harasser. Well, wait a goddamn minute, buddy. You just came out and you told a lot of people a lot of things without saying much. So yeah, if I say horrible people should go fuck themselves, and you come out and start defending horrible people, you're very easy to read.
I think that Gabino should be the spirit animal of this podcast from here on out.
I think I think you've got a lot of you've got a lot of ideas that really need to kind of spread throughout the country now. About defending certain types of people and being offended about about not liking certain horrible things. I don't know how much sense that makes, but if you come out and you say this is bad, if racism is bad, like there is no well, because if you have a retort to that other than yes, I agree that racism is bad, I'm afraid you have a problem. Whether we are face to face or you're over Twitter, that's an issue, man.
That's you. Like I said, you got two problems now, and you brought them on yourself. And I think Sadie Hartman was saying something today about in the past 4 years, writers have been very critical of the Trump regime and have spoken their mind continuously. And Ellen Datlow, superhero Ellen Datlow, got in that conversation. Joe Lansdale jumped into that conversation. There's a difference between just that article that you just mentioned. That was just me having fun, and writing is a self-imposed cancer. Like nobody's making you do this. If you're so unhappy about being a writer, go drive an Uber or start another different business. But those of us who speak our minds in terms of politics, it's how many dozens of followers am I going to lose today because I'm speaking my mind, because I say I don't know, trans women are women. I'm going to say that, and then 10 people are going to disagree with me and unfollow me. Well, I don't need those followers because you're probably not going to enjoy my work. You don't align with my politics, and you literally hate my friends, all my trans friends. So, fuck you twice. Good riddance. Let the trash take itself out. But it's that thing of the defending. It's like, if you're transphobic, you're gonna F off. Well, it's a slippery slope. Because no, it's not. Racism is bad, but there are certain times. No, there are no certain times. That's just you trying to be a horrible person and not face it. There's no point in time in which racism is okay. And if I say so and you get angry, again, you got two problems. And COVID will be over at some point, so feel free to come see these hands as well.
And, from your perspective, especially, like you said that, I'm not going to miss those followers because they're not going to support what I do anyway. Like, it's if you don't like what I'm tweeting, you are really going to hate what I have to say in this Coyote Songs book.
Yes. Yeah. And you hate all my Black friends, and you hate all my Latino friends, and you hate all my queer poet friends and my trans writer friends. It's like, this isn't a place where you're going to have a lot of fun. So, the Tiki Torch crowd is right around the corner. You can go hang out with them.
I wish we could just sound clip that part of it. That was my question. Just can we sound clip that part of it?
I thought there was more
By
to
all
that.
means. It's all you.
So I'm curious, how'd you get hooked up with Lit Reactor?
Lit Reactor. It's been a while. I think I approached them with a pitch. Joshua, I think. I emailed them a pitch, and I did a couple of essays, and then I did. At the time, they were still doing book shots, which was a very awesome format of book review that just, you did different lines and answered different questions. And then at some point it became, I got an email like, Lit Reactor writers are going to pitch on this emails, blah, blah, blah. And here's the documents that you need to fill out to get paid and stuff. And it's been a long, wild ride. There's this weird hatred for Lit Reactor that I've never understood online. I don't want to dig into it. Everybody from Joshua to Dwyer to Rob Hart to everybody that I've dealt with at Lit Reactor has been nothing but awesome to me. So I keep pitching wild ideas and they keep saying yes. So I got one coming up. I said I'm stuck at home. I want to make fun of all author photos. So can I do like cliche, ridiculous author photos? I promise you I'll take all of them and I'll send the photos in, and that got accepted. So, where else am I going to pitch those ideas?
Yeah, I know. They got another columnist, Max Booth, who is pretty goddamn funny. I can't tell when he's being serious.
Nobody can. Max is that guy. He'll start talking about Stephen King, and then he'll transition into something with the same tone of voice, and he's just trolling. And I think he does that very well at Lit Reactor. He's just half of the time he's serious, and the other half you don't know. So yeah.
Brennan or Cassie?
Nope, all you.
Okay, so I'm gonna move on to what are you currently working on?
Nothing, because the new one is done. The new one is done. I worked with a fantastic editor. There's more news on that coming soon, but she was a senior editor at Doubleday for about a decade, and that was an awesome experience. And she sent me a thing called an editorial letter, which I had never received in all of the books and short stories that I had worked with different editors. And I wasn't happy, because you're never happy with anything that you write. And then as soon as it gets published, you fucking hate it. But I was somewhat content with what I had accomplished, because it was done. And it was sort of like, all right, this is solid. Here's how we're gonna make it better. And now I'm at that point where let's say on like half of the days of the week, I'll wake up and I'll think it's good. Don't ask me about the other days, but half of the days I think it's good. So I'm excited too. There's some major announcements coming up regarding that one, which is the longest thing I've written, because after people were done complaining about all the Spanish, the second normal complaint is like, they're too short. Stop writing novellas and write a novel. Screw your 3 jobs and just get to just write more. So I used my unemployment, my being unemployed time, because the state of Texas never paid me unemployment. Thank you, state of Texas. But I used that downtime to add another 45,000 words, and it's sitting now after edits at around 95,000 words. So news soon, but that one is done, and that one will probably see the light of day, I guess, at some point in 2021. I don't know. The world is weird right now.
You got a publisher already set up for that?
Here's the one thing that I want right now: a publisher with distribution. A lot of people think I'm poor. I've never made a secret of that, but a lot of people think I'm poorer than dirt, because when I travel places, I have to carry my own books, so my luggage doesn't contain any clothing. So I rock the same shirt for 2 days at events because I have to get my own books there. So hopefully the next publisher will be slightly bigger, which will allow me to get the books into more places, and the kind of company or the kind of publisher that can get me into like a whole bunch of really cool indie bookstores, which don't carry small indie titles because they consider those a financial risk. And we can't hold that against them because, as we know, indie bookstores are barely surviving. So support indie bookstores. So that's the idea for now. We'll see where it goes.
Very cool.
So can you tell us anything about, plot or genre or anything at all?
We're just picking away.
Yeah.
It's the darkest, saddest, most depressive thing I've ever written. I'll give you the first line of the novel, leukemia. That's it. That's how it starts.
Wow.
Starts off rough.
And you know what, man? Not cool.
That's dark, sad, and depressing.
Yeah, and then it gets worse.
You should have warned us.
It's about a man who is grieving a horrible loss and loses his job, and that forces him to do a whole bunch of bad things that get really weird really quickly. And then obviously it's horror, it's crime, it's I don't know what to call it. I want to make people cry. So we'll see.
I like to cry, so I'm excited to read it.
It's I think we were at a workshop. We were talking about you can do horrible things to make people happy. Like, for example, nobody's crying because John Wick's puppy died. We're just glad we got 3 movies out of it. So that was the driving idea. It was like, I'm gonna kill some fucking kids. Why not? Let's make people happy. So hopefully it works. I don't know. Hopefully people will be in a better mood when it comes out that we are right now. It'll be a better, brighter world. If not, just pile your darkness on top of more darkness. We love listening to sad songs when we're sad, right? So I'll give you grieving literature for your grievances. It'll be fun.
So the pandemic has not slowed you down, it sounds like.
It has lit a fire under me because it was suddenly like, for 2 years working as a high school teacher, I knew I wasn't going to be a millionaire, but I knew like these things are covered every single month. I'm going to get my check, and these things are covered. And then I lost my job in June. Last check came in July, and then it was like, all right, buddy, what now? How are you gonna go out and get a job at a restaurant? Think again. There's none of those. And suddenly it was like, stop worrying about being unemployed because every single other person is also probably unemployed right now. And things got really dark for a little bit. So I was like, this is the time. I'm never gonna have this amount of time. And also being home. So that was the only plus side to not being out and about. My friend's tour got canceled. I was going to teach workshops in Canada, and that got canceled. So I was like literally at home. So the first 45,000 words of this new novel took me about 10 months to write. And then the second half, the second 45,000 hours probably took me 7 weeks to write. Wow. It was like, all right, it's go time. Sit down. There's no more excuses. You're not tired. I don't have to write in sprints during lunch at school. Sit your ass down and get it done. So it was productive in that sense.
Do you have a specific sort of like writing schedule or something that you keep to when you're trying to finish something?
I don't have a schedule for anything, Cassie.
Well, do you have like, how about this then? Do you have like a routine, like a special mug you like best or something?
I like it to be. I can't go to the park and write in Texas. It's like 112 degrees in the summer and very bright. I can't do that. It needs to be sort of dark to get me in that dark mood. And I'm always listening to music. Some type of music has to be going on while I'm writing. But it could be 2 a.m. It could be midday. I'll just close the window. It's a lot of my students ask at SNHU. They ask about writing rituals and all that stuff. And it's like, if I have the time, I'm just gonna sit down. Some days you're inspired and you get a lot done, and some days it's just like you barely crank out 500 words. But it's 500 words, and maybe you get to keep 200 of those. So It's a it's an honest day's work.
Now, I got a random ass question for you, but have any of you guys heard of the Brazilian rap artist, I might be mispronouncing it, Emicida, Emicida?
No.
No.
Okay. All right. Again, it's not Spanish. He speaks Portuguese, I believe. But I was listening to that while I read Zero Saints too, because it's similar to the language, but there's this me and Cassie have talked about this one band. She might laugh when I name it. El Nino.
I knew you were gonna say El Nino.
Because they are a band I've listened to since I was like a freshman in high school, and they're the only other example I've experienced in my life consciously where they weave Spanish with English, and I love it. And I don't know what most of the words are, but it's heavy. It's basically like I imagine, if you were drinking, because there's a lot of screaming in it. I love it. Although the lead singer recently is not in it anymore, so I'm not a huge fan of the new one. But yeah, I just had to leave you with that tidbit selfishly. Brennan, before we go to what are you reading, I don't want to bypass any questions you may have from the previous topic.
God, you got me thinking about Portuguese rap now, and it completely shoved the previous topic out of my head.
I was like, what was the previous topic?
No, the previous topic was writing routine, and getting words down, and yeah, I kind of find myself in the same boat. I had a very, very productive quarantine, and they practically had to drag me back to work kicking and screaming in September.
All right, Trump.
And I've been trying so hard to kind of keep getting the words down, finding, even if it's just like 30 minutes a day, time to sit down. And I totally get that there are people who are dealing with stuff like dealing with depression and dealing with anxiety and can't do that. I feel very lucky, I suppose, that I was able to, and it's really awesome that we're getting a bigger than not that there's anything wrong with the size of Coyote Songs or Zero Saints, but we're getting a bigger than average, Gabino novel out of that. So I'm psyched about that. I'm anxiously awaiting that.
I'm glad you got shit done, man. That's good.
I think it kind of makes me feel a little bit better too, because I only just started doing any writing stuff this year just because I was dealing with a lot of anxiety, and I was like, let's try this. Everybody says it helps with their mental health. And sometimes like I cannot write anything, and I'm like, okay, so I'm bad at this. This is not my thing. Like everybody else is talking about how many words they've gotten written, and I'm just sitting here like and so like it makes me feel a lot better to hear about people that I admire who write and who like you, Gabino, who do a lot of like hustling and just constant working and putting stuff out, that I'm not a failure and I'm not doing everything wrong. Because it's really easy, because writing is such an isolating thing. Like if you don't intentionally interact with other writers, it can feel so lonely and like you're all by yourself. And it's scary.
That meme of the black guy who looks incredulous is just like pouting his lips like
yeah.
So whenever somebody starts putting up like this magical word counts every single day and they never suck, they're never frustrated, it kind of makes me think, like, whenever everybody's talking about how awesome their relationships are, it's like here comes the divorce. And then when they do that, you just keep tracking. It's like, all right, so you've been cranking out 5,000 words a day for the past 6 months and published nothing. So are you writing an encyclopedia? Like, what is this thing? So don't trust that. We wake up in the morning. Some days you're feeling it. Some days you're like, I'm garbage. I suck. I'm an awful human. I'm a hack, and I shouldn't be doing this. And we all suffer from that. You suffer from imposter syndrome. Some days you just struggle, and some days that's a reality. Some days you cannot put words down. It's just not happening. You're sad. You're depressed. You got something else going on in life. You're worried about COVID, or you're worried about your job or your finances or your relationship, or something keeps you from doing it. So you're just remember, you're still a writer on days when you don't write. and then just live, take care of yourself, and you'll live to fight another day. And then the next day, you just put words down.
I always loved that sentiment. You're still a writer on days that you don't write. Like, I consider myself a teacher on weekends. I'm not going in on Saturday, but it doesn't, change that identity.
Right. Well, and it's percolating. It's working.
I think it's important that you're like you're applying that to teaching too, because like I've seen Gabino's tweets sometimes and I'm like, okay, I haven't written anything in a couple months, but I'm doing some art shit right now. And I'm still an artist, even if I literally do not have anything that I want to paint right now. Like, I cannot think of how to make this look good. It looks like trash. That's fine. I can still do art. Maybe not today, but tomorrow I can do art again.
Yeah. So let's jump to what are you reading right now? And let's start with Gabino.
All right. I got like 20 pages left on Jeremy Robert Johnson's The Loop. Which is amazing. It's his best book yet, and I've said that about every Jeremy Robert Johnson book since day one. I got probably 4 or 5 stories left on an anthology called Tiny Nightmares, which is pretty friggin' amazing. What else am I reading right now? I started Jonathan Mabry's Ink last night, which should be out in a couple days, I think on the 17th. I'm only about 30% in, but it's moving very fast for such a thick book, so I'm digging it. And I started something else. Antioch by Jessica Leonard. And then the other stuff I can't tell you because it's for blurbs and stuff, but those are the ones that I'm reading right now.
Nice. Yeah, Mayberry told us about Ink, and it sounds super badass, man.
Yeah.
So that's a book that I want to pick up. Cassie, let's jump to you. What are you reading right now?
So I just finished Zero Saints today, and then I also finished one of the Pikecast books. So I'm reading Horrid by Katrina Leno. I'm not sure how to say it, but it's the Ladies of Horror Fiction book for this month. And it's like one of the rare occasions that I'm reading an anthology too, because I was going to say there's only one, but Graveyard Smash, the Women of Horror anthology. I'm reading that one too. Candisha Press, they sent it to me, and I like it so far. There's a lot of people that I hadn't read before in it, so I really like when you get to introduce yourself to new people through an anthology, and it's kind of all around a central theme, so you're like, I know what I'm getting. Like, if I want creepy circus stuff, I'll go to the creepy circus antho. Like, if I want this, I'm going here. So I'm liking it.
Interesting. Brennan.
So first of all, I would say, Gabino, I'm always psyched to meet a kindred spirit who can't just read one thing. I love the way you phrased it too. You were like, I just started this, and not even I'm in the middle of like 5 books, but like I just started like 7 books last night. I am in the middle of about 10, but I'll talk about one. I started The 5 Turns of the Wheel by Stephanie Ellis just this morning, and it starts off with it's folk horror, and it starts off with this like creepy ass poetry to kind of set up the mythos that you're kind of diving into. And even just in the first couple chapters, she really nails down that rural folk that you're not going to be able to trust vibe. I'm very interested to see where it goes. It's got an awesome cover by Keelan Burke.
Cool.
Pat, how about you?
So like Cassie, I just finished Zero Saints earlier this morning or last night. I don't know. Time doesn't matter anymore. And I jumped into Ghoul, which I put down in this summer to read a bunch of other books for the show that I unfortunately didn't get to read Ghoul until now. But yeah, jumping back into that is real easy. Getting back on the saddle. It's Brian Keene. It's really easy to read. And I'm reading We Are Wolves, the anthology put together by Sina Palaio, Laurel Hightower, I can't speak today, and Gemma Amore. I just finished Laurel's story. Sina's story's first, and Gemma does the forward. They just keep breaking me. They keep a mother that writes. I mean, and I shouldn't say that because Cassie's not
I knew
a human.
I'm not offended. It's totally
No. But it's completely wrong because I compare you to Laurel Hightower. You're the only person I've done that to.
You shouldn't. I'm not that
Okay,
good.
I'm just gonna say this: they are very good because I've read Cassie's story in it too, and she's not currently a mom, but her story is just as powerful. So please forgive me for that. They write great stories. I can't say it any other better way.
It's a who's who of contemporary horror female voices.
Yeah,
that's
smarter than me. Nice. Now, before we go, sir, is there anything that you want to tell us, or is there a link that you would like in the edit, the notes for this episode? Any links, anything that you want people to know?
Well, now we have to put in Cassie's Etsy story in there. Otherwise, this whole hour was just a waste of time. Yeah, I mean, we talked about a lot of books. Let's try to remember a few of them and put them in there so people can go buy them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I'll do my best to send you a list.
Okay. Yeah, you're a hard man to get in touch with sometimes. I'll like. I think you're okay with me saying this. If not, tell me to go fuck myself. I'll try. I feel like such a pain in the goddamn ass. I'm like, should I text him? Okay. Now should I message him? Okay.
Everybody has my cell phone. Everybody, my DMs on Twitter are open as of the beginning of the year. So like if you send me something early on in the morning, I'm not gonna see it until you like bounce it back to the top later in the
Cassie's the same.
I know. I ignore them all day, and it's not on purpose. It's just because I forget. I see it, and then I forget to go back to it, and then there'll be like loud noises or a bunch of emojis, and I'm like, oh crap, I'm so sorry, guys.
And I will say this in Cassie's defense. Only reason I eventually get to them is because I'm a dude. If I was a woman, I would not open my DMs. Just like, I would stay at that dark hole forever. It's like, you need me, come to my house. That's about it. Like, I'm not opening any DMs or texts or anything.
Did you guys ever see that Dave Chappelle episode when he had that show for 3 years? It's a skit where he's on like in the internet in person, and it's just this random dude that pops up and he's talking. He's like,
like at a bar.
Yeah. There's this one guy that pops up though, and he says, starts talking about dick pills. I imagine that's like kind of what you're getting at, minus the pills.
Yeah. Yeah. And in case you didn't know, this is the dick that I was talking about. Here's a photo of it.
Yeah, right.
What's worse too is when they send it to you and then they pretend they didn't mean to. They're like, "Oh, that was supposed to be for my wife. I'm so sorry." I've had that happen more times than I can count. It like what? How? Why? Get out of here with that. Gross.
I would probably get kicked out of Twitter because if I was a woman and I eventually open all my DMs, I would screenshot every single day and then just put it out there. Like, hey, were you? And I would tag them. Hey, were you wondering what so and so's junk looked like?
Oh my god!
You know, it'd be funny. There'd be a lot of homework involved with this, but if you were able to like screenshot that picture of their face, their phone number, and in their neighborhood say, "This dickhead's missing," just here's the number. I don't know, man. Like that'd be the ultimate punishment.
Just have like a reward if found.
Yeah.
So, Gabino, where can people follow you?
You can send all your dick pics to. No, it's.
He's like, please don't do that. Never mind. I'm just kidding. No, take that out.
Just kidding. That was a joke. That was you people. You need to understand. It was a joke. Somebody stole my name. It's some dude with like 2 followers and an egg for profile pictures. So I had to do the annoying thing and add an underscore. So it's I live on Twitter nowadays. It's Gabino, Gabino _ Iglesias, Gabino Iglesias. I mean Gabino_Iglesias. Twitter. Come find me there. That's where we talk about books. And, once in a blue moon, we might post about politics or something, something engaging like that, or, talk about racism, or I don't know.
That's what happened with our Twitter handle. Some asshole from 2013 who hasn't used it since then has dead headspace. Why?
Right? Why?
So to cover this entire episode, if you don't go to Cassie's Etsy store, go fuck yourself. If you got a problem with Gabino using his native tongue, go fuck yourself. And if you want to vote us off the island, go fuck yourself. We hope everyone else has a good day.
We love you.
What you just kind of cut out? What'd you say?
I said everybody else that doesn't. None of that applies to you. Then we love you.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So, signing out, Brennan, as always, thank you for being my co-pilot, sir. Cassie, you have done a great job per usual. And Gabino, I hope that you and I continue to shout, because Cassie and Brennan are quieter. So I hope you and I continue to tell everyone to go fuck themselves, because that's pretty much my send-out now, it seems like. I remember when we were talking to Michael David Wilson, I said, if you don't watch This Is Hard, go fuck yourself. So I'm not joking when I say I do use that tagline.
No, thank you to the three of you for putting up with me for a little while and having me here in your, I guess, digital home.
It's been a pleasure. Hopefully we can do it in real life. And yeah, we're in the Matrix right now, but hopefully in the real world one day. Everyone else, have a nice go fuck yourself.